Mass STL Exporter is an add-on for Blender that can be used for when you need to export many different variations of an object, which would be too time-consuming to do manually. Let me explain how to use this add-on. First, install the add-on as any other Blender add-on by going to Edit. Then click Preferences. Under Add-ons, click the Install button, and then select the add-on zip file. Make sure to also enable the add-on in order to be able to use it. You will now see, if you press N, that you should have a new tab called STL Exporter. Before moving on, let me first present you with a scenario where this add-on is very useful. Here is an example project of a face. For this face, there are also a bunch of different accessories. There are 3 different hat variations. Actually, there are 4 different hat variations, if you consider no hat as an option as well. Then there are 3 different variations of glasses: big glasses, smaller glasses, and no glasses. We also have a few different variations for facial hair: goatee, mustache, goatee plus mustache, and no facial hair at all. So that's 4 different variations for facial hair. If you count every single possible combination of hats, glasses, and facial hair, it would then be 4 by 3 by 4, which is 48. 48 different combinations of items would be quite time-consuming to sit and export manually. The amount of possible combinations only increases exponentially the more types of items we introduce into this project. Let's say there are also 3 different types of eyebrows. Then the possible amount of combinations is suddenly 144. Of course, you could choose to not export every single combination of items and just pick and choose what combinations you want. But if you do want every single combination as an STL file, then this is where this add-on really comes in super handy. Here's how you do it. Open up the panel that says STL Exporter. I also highly suggest that you expand the width of this panel so that it's easier to see what you're typing. You have to define an output folder. By default, this is the TMP folder in your C drive. The folder referenced here must exist on your computer. Otherwise, the script will fail. Next, you define an object or objects that are marked as mandatory. This means that these objects are always included in each variation, no matter what. For this project, the mandatory objects would be the head and the eyes. So I type in eyes, semicolon, face. Semicolon is always used to separate objects if there are more than one. It is important that the name or names entered correspond to what the object is named in Blender, which you see here and here, otherwise the script will fail. Also do note, when you reference object and object by name, it is case sensitive, meaning you have to match the exact name by taking uppercase and lowercase letters into account. Now that we have defined the mandatory objects, let's start defining the hats. Create a category by clicking the Add Category button. You can give this category a name, like hats. However, this is optional. Now we need to add variants for this category. Click the Add Variant button. Let's create a variant for our top hat. Let's name it Top Hat. It's good to give each variant a descriptive name, because this name will be a part of the file name. Then in the input field, write hat1, which is what the object is called in Blender. Then let's do the same for our cone-shaped party hat. Next, let's define our army helmet. This helmet actually consists of 2 objects, one for the helmet body and one for the spikes. They are both placed in a collection called hat3. So to define this helmet, in the input field you can either just type in hat3, the name of the collection, or you enter the name of both objects, separated by semicolon. Lastly, for hats, let's create a variation for no hat. Here you just leave the input field empty. Now we have defined our 4 different combinations for hats. We can now do the same for our other categories, glasses and facial hair. I will speed through these as it will work exactly the same as when creating variants for the hats category. Important: If you have created variants that reference objects inside collections that are hidden, make sure that the collection is visible before moving on the final export step. Now we should be ready to export. Take one last check that all your object or collection names are referenced correctly. Then click the Export button. Depending on the total amount of possible combinations and how big the individual objects are, the export process may take some time. If Blender seems to be stuck, don't panic. The script is doing its magic. You can in the background open up the output folder and verify that the STL files are being created one by one. If the export process becomes too time-consuming for you, make sure that your objects in Blender are optimized. Objects that are very high poly take longer time to export. For such cases, I recommend maybe using something like a decimate modifier. Modifiers are always applied automatically to the output files, so you don't have to worry about that. Finally, the export is done. Here you can see that I have 48 different variations of these faces. One STL file for every possible combination of objects that we defined in the add-on. The name of each file is comprised of the names you defined for each variant. This is why it's a good idea to use good, readable and descriptive names of the variants when defining them. I hope you enjoy this add-on and that you will find it useful. If you like it, please leave a positive rating. I would greatly appreciate it. If you have any ideas on how to improve this add-on, I am open to take your suggestions in the comments section. Thank you very much. Have fun using the Mass STL Exporter add-on.